Hello, my friends. Good to see everybody on this Memorial Day weekend. I hope you guys had a great service. As we entered into the summer slump season of ministry, I hope it's not too much of a summer slump, but God gives you a spiritual bump in your own soul and spirit this summer. You get to spend some time specifically with your family, some time alone with God, and some time just reflected upon the goodness of God in preparation for the fall harvest that we all typically see. Don't get discouraged in June when you know September is right around the corner, and prep for that. We are so glad to see each and every one of you. We're gonna get started here in a moment with a really great conversation from our very own engagement director, Corey Knopf, on how to really develop relationships with ministry leaders within your own community, your own backyard. But before we do, I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here once again today, and I'm excited about this conversation. I'm going to kick it back to Jason, and Jason's going to take us from here.
Hey guys, good to have all of you here. We've still got people coming in to the waiting room, so a couple more signing in. We're going to open up here in just a minute in a word of prayer. I'm going to call on somebody to pray. Let me see. There's always a tense moment when you call on someone. Like, is he gonna pick me? I'm going to pick my friend Chris Rule to open us up in prayer today. Chris, you're looking good. It's good to have you there from the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. We're in separate time zones, but man, we're excited to be on the call today. Chris, if you could just open us up in a word of prayer. And then from there, we're going to kick it over to Kylie to let us know a little bit more about the LGBTQ webinar coming up. Chris, thanks for being here today.
Sure. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for these people that we can gather together and we can brainstorm and go through ideas, and Lord, that there's unity, but God, also that there's friendship, fellowship that we can have. God, I pray that you would bless the conversation today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So you guys know a lot of the details at this point of who's speaking and what they're speaking on. And you know that you have a free ticket for yourself. So I'll put the link in down below again for you guys. If you haven't already registered, take advantage of it. If you can't be there, it is recorded and you can view it later for weeks on end afterwards. So if next Tuesday is just like not the day, even registering, you can still hop in and see everything that the live webinar people saw. So I think that one is that aspect of it is not very well known if it is recorded and available afterwards. So still sign up and you'll still get the email and be able to access everything kind of on demand when it works for you best. There is a networking option on the webinar itself on the platform. That is a live feature. You do have to be live for that one. But chatting with new people, there's even a speed networking thing where you can meet new friends, new other ministry leaders, and actually like get to know people. So that's one thing we're really excited about. It's just a cool feature available to you to be able to meet people. And that's one thing that ID Network is all about, is community and friendship. And we want to find ways to connect you with as many friends as we can. So that's a cool aspect that we haven't really talked about before. Do please, if you know of anyone that needs access to this webinar, we will 100% give them a free, a different login, ticket, whatever they need to come to this. There's a lot of young people. I know Pastor Josh even has some young people in his own church who have come out, or at least one who has come out recently, and he's invited her to this webinar. And so the young people in your church, your youth groups, you know, they know people, their friends at school are struggling with sexual identity. And this webinar could be extremely helpful for them. And again, because it is recorded, perhaps you might say, well, I really want to be very careful with what I'm showing our teenagers. Have your youth pastor register, watch it, and he can kind of decide, is this something I want to show my teenagers? Because it's recorded, he can show them later. And under the group ticket, you know, up to 10 people for that one. So there's a lot of options and different ways you could utilize this for your ministry and actually seeing real help and real resources given. Every single speaker in a session that we have, they're giving free resources, tangible, downloadable resources as well. So those are a few things, aspects we haven't necessarily dived into before, but all very practical and useful. And I hope you guys will really take advantage of them. That's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Kylie. I appreciate you clarifying that. And one thing I wanted to clarify with the webinar being next week, that is replacing the virtual roundtable. So whereas we will not have this forum on Zoom where we can all weigh in and talk and discuss, we will be able to participate in the webinar. And so Jim Childs is going to be there next week. He's going to be helping us throughout the month of June in our virtual roundtables as well. But there will be no virtual roundtable next week in this format. It will move to the webinar completely. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that before then. Corey Knopf is our speaker today. Corey is an associate pastor in the Baltimore, Maryland area, working for his father-in-law, doing a great job there. But the title we know him best by is the engagement director of the Idea Network. Corey kind of leads the little meetups that we had. We had one a couple of weeks ago in Los Angeles, Southern California. We had one here in North Carolina. Corey is the point person for those. And he's also helping out with Idea Night. If you are interested this fall in helping out, being a host church with the Idea Night, Corey is the guy you would want to see on that. I'm excited about him being with us today and sharing a topic that I personally think all of us need help in this area, engaging leaders in your own backyard. So Corey, I'm going to kick things off to you. We're excited to have you with us today. Thanks for being here.
Hey guys, thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate the invite to be here. You all have some amazing speakers that come to your virtual roundtables. So it's really an honor to be with you today. And I know that my title inside of our network is engagement director, but I don't presume that I know all about engagement. So I'm just in this with you all, learning as everybody is. But when Jason asked me about this topic, I thought, wow, this is a really great opportunity. I think this is something that we all need to grow in, including myself. Absolutely. Let me just give you a real quick background, and then we'll get right into our talk here. So I grew up just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, my entire life. Went to college and then came back and served on staff in our church for about 11 years. And I just moved out here south of Baltimore, a little town called Glen Burnie, Maryland. And that was about a year and a half ago. So I moved in October of 2020, which was a very difficult time to get to know new people, as you all know. And I feel like I'm just starting to make some traction with some new connections, some new people. And I feel like that's something that I really need to be more proactive of right now in my local context. So please don't think this is a admonition for you that isn't for me. It absolutely is. But when Jason asked me about this, the first thing that came to my mind was the Good Samaritan. And I'm not going to get preachy with you. I'm not going to run you through a Bible lesson. You all are very familiar with this story. But I was thinking, Jesus talks about what was the good neighbor here. And it was a Samaritan. He was the one that fulfilled what would be the ideal neighbor. And I think if there's anything about engaging other ministry leaders right in our own backyard, it's really being a good neighbor. That's really all it comes down to. Yes, it's with other ministry leaders, other pastors that are in the same field, if you will, as us. But it really is just about being a good neighbor to them. It's about loving people. It's about caring for them. It's about building relationships with them. So I looked at a couple of principles from the story of the Good Samaritan, and then I want to apply them to our own lives and really just ask, are we doing this? Is this something that we can all grow in? I know I can. So let me give you a couple of principles. If you want to write them down, feel free to, but I think these will be helpful just to kind of challenge our minds. And I don't think this is going to be anything mind-blowing. I don't think this is going to be anything that you haven't thought of yourself. But like Jason said, I think we can all be more proactive and intentional about networking together with people right in our own community. I think sometimes my default is to network with people that are hundreds or thousands of miles away, like what we're doing right this moment. It seems like it's easy. But sometimes when it's like the guy that's literally a mile and a half away, hey, can I admit my faults here? Josh and I were texting people about idea night, and he texted somebody that is literally about a mile and a half from where I live, another pastor right in town that I've never met. And it's not like I don't want to. I've been meaning to, I've been wanting to. There's no bad blood. There's nothing like that. It's just he's busy, I'm busy. And I pass by his church all the time. And you know what I need to do? I actually need to stop into his church and say, hey man, how you doing? I'm new in the area. Let's get together. Let's talk. But I haven't done it yet. And by us texting together, I had to text him and say, you know what? I live right around the corner from you. I'm sorry I haven't reached out yet and talked. I'm sorry I haven't met you yet. So you know what? If you need a great person to look at as what not to do, hey, I'm right here. Okay. I need to grow in this area big time. But what are some principles about being a good neighbor, about engaging those people right around you? The first one is this. I think you have to be willing. You've got to be willing to be a friend, and maybe be willing to be a friend to someone who other people won't be a friend to. Y'all have been in ministry. You've encouraged people in your church to get to know one another, to step out of their comfort zone, to get to know people that aren't exactly like them, or that other people maybe wouldn't count as maybe being popular or something like that. I think you have to be willing. It comes from the heart. Am I willing to reach out and love on somebody that maybe is different than me? Maybe isn't super popular. Maybe that we don't even agree on everything or even most things. But am I willing to just be that neighbor? Just like in our story, the Good Samaritan, or reaching out to someone that really he probably shouldn't have by all societal norms, but he loved on someone. I want to ask us, are we willing to be a friend to somebody who maybe really needs a friend? And by the way, I know we talked about this the other day in one of our conversations, Josh, but that's why the Idea Network exists. It's to encourage people who maybe don't have encouragement, provide friendships for maybe somebody that feels like they're on an island a little bit. So be willing to be a friend to someone, and maybe even someone that is very different than you. And I understand you have to be knowing your own boundaries, use discernment on what parameters, of interaction you use with one another doctrinally. I understand all of that, but I'm just talking about just being kind to people, loving people, encouraging people. Another thing that I noticed about the Good Samaritan is that he was prepared to make a difference. He was ready. He encountered somebody that needed to be invested in, and he was ready to invest in them. He was prepared because he was intentional. It was on purpose. He said, this always blows my mind when I read the story. He was ready monetarily. He was ready physically with supplies. He was literally ready to make a difference. I don't know what was in his mind that morning when he set out on his journey, but in some way, shape, or form, he thought to himself, I want to be prepared in case I encounter a scenario like this. My challenge to us as ministry leaders is, are you prepared to help somebody in your own backyard? Are you ready to kind of put your own stuff maybe on hold, your own plan, your own route, just like the Samaritan here, kind of put it on hold and say, you know what, there's this guy up the street from me, and I know maybe he's having a rough day. Maybe I even read something on social media where he's getting lambasted. Maybe he needs a phone call. Are you prepared? Are you willing? Are you intentional to make a difference? I would say being prepared means you need to know the people in your area. You need to even know their names. What churches are they associated with? Who are they? Where are they? Are you prepared to make a difference? Be intentional. Yeah, the preparation comes from intentionality, but I'm just going to put it real low for us right now, a really low bar to reach. How intentional am I, just not necessarily in fixing a problem or being a help, but just in making the initial contact? Am I intentional about picking up my phone and just texting somebody or calling somebody or sending an email real quick or a Facebook message? This doesn't have to be big, huge stuff. I'll tell you, some of the most encouraging things I've ever gotten from other ministry leaders are simple texts that say, hey man, I love you, I'm praying for you. And that's it. That does a lot for me as a ministry leader to hear that somebody is pulling for me, especially on a rough day. Be intentional. I want to put this one in about the Good Samaritan. I believe he went against the norm. We kind of already touched on that, but he went against the flow. When everybody else was doing this and neglecting someone, he said, no, I actually think that person's worth investing in. I think that individual is worth helping. I think it's the right thing to do, to love on this person and to care for them. I understand churches. I've been around church ministry my entire life. I understand a lot of times we make more dividing lines than we do bridges. And I'm not telling you to compromise your standards or your convictions or anything like that. But sometimes I need to put aside preferential things that are kind of the norm just to really be like Christ to someone else. And by the way, reaching out to somebody in your own backyard, I don't think that means necessarily that you're going to every one of their preaching rallies or you're inviting them to every one of your revivals. I don't think it has to be to that depth. There are different layers of friendship. There's different depths of relationships here. Can I go against maybe the norm of this guy's kind of on an island, nobody's really hanging out with him, and I'm going to go spend time with him? And my last one here before we get into some just real simple applicational thoughts is this. He had a sincere heart of care. He wouldn't have done what he did if he didn't truly, deeply, personally care. I know as a pastor ministry leader that you love people. You wouldn't do what you do if you didn't love people. You wouldn't do what you do if you didn't love Jesus, who wants you to love people. So you have a loving, caring heart. But I want to submit to us not to get so laser focused on our own yard that we never look across the fence at our neighbor's yard. Do you sincerely care for the people in your community who are other ministry leaders? Do you care how their church is doing? Do you care how their attendance is? And not in a comparison type of way, but we were just joking about this before everybody jumped on the call. We always check our own numbers. Hey, I wonder how Bob's doing down the street. Not to compare, but just to reach out. Hey man, how'd your Sunday go? I didn't have a great day. Hey, that's all right. Keep at it for Jesus. It's worth it. It's worth it for the kingdom. Maybe a couple real quick applicational thoughts, and then we'll split into our individual groups here. One is this. We've already mentioned several of these a little bit already, but I really want to draw hard on the application today. Learn who the ministry leaders are in your community. Figure out what churches are around you. Figure out who is leading those ministries. You need an idea of who to connect with. Just drive around your community, look for the churches you don't know the pastors of, and reach out to them. Here's another one. Be willing to have an awkward moment that could change your life and somebody else's life. Be willing to be uncomfortable a little bit. Make the first move. Ask that person out to coffee. Like, well, I don't know him, or maybe I should already know him. Kind of like in my scenario. I probably should have already invited this guy to coffee, but you know what? It's got to start somewhere. So get uncomfortable for a minute if it really could impact you and impact them in the long term. How about this one? This is more of a warning, I guess. Don't be unkind to other leaders around you. I want you to have the testimony in your community that that's the guy who pastors that church who is nice to everybody. That's the guy that if there's something going around about a ministry leader, some gossip, he isn't going to be included. That's the guy, if there's a pastor who's down and out in our community, he's not going to kick him when he's down. No, he's going to be over there with his arm around him, pulling him up. Let's not be unkind. Let's be known for being kind. Learn about those people. Those ministry leaders can be some of your closest friends. They really can be. But you got to learn them. Learn about them. Somebody in the chat here, I think it was Chris Rule, said happy birthday to Adam. And he may have seen that on Facebook or something like that. But learn about the ministry leaders around you. Figure out when their birthdays are, anniversaries, big church days. Send them a text and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Happy birthday. Hey, I noticed you had a big anniversary in your church. I just did this the other day. Pastor Toole, he's about 30 minutes from me. He had his 25th anniversary at his church. I just picked up the phone, sent him a quick text, and said, "Hey, Pastor Joel, great job. Keep at it. Thanks for your awesome testimony for Christ." That's all it takes. Look for a way to celebrate with leaders around you and sympathize with them. Be there in the good times and the bad times for them. Be there to pick them up when they get knocked down. Send a note of encouragement, like a handwritten note. I know this is nothing you don't know already, but if we want to apply it to our backyard, send a handwritten note of encouragement. Hey, how about this? Give a gift on a special occasion. Maybe send them a gift card. Hey, I saw your church anniversary. I saw your wedding anniversary on Facebook. Here's a gift card. Go get something to eat on me and my church. How about this one? Don't forget about their spouse and children. You know, you're a ministry leader and your spouse and children get lonely. I bet that guy down the street, I bet his wife and his kids get lonely from time to time. It means the world to me when a ministry leader, maybe somebody visiting or something like that, preaching in, thinks about my kids. It means the world to me if I go preach somewhere and my kids come with me, and in the hotel room, there's snacks for my kids. It means everything to me. How hard would that be for us to do for the guy down the street? Drop off a goodie basket on his church door one day and say, "Hey, just thought of your kids. Here's some popcorn and a Netflix code. Go rent a movie on me." Support their events. Just don't just invite them to yours. I think some of us are really bad at this one. I am. Support their events. Don't just ask them to support yours. Hey, when we've got a big rally coming up, we send our mailing to all our local pastor buddies. Hey, come to my big thing. Are you going to their stuff as well? Support their events. This is something that my pastor taught me. There's a local pastor here in town. Doesn't have a big congregation, doesn't have a big budget. And he sent one of our staff guys over there to go preach a revival and said, "Hey, look, you're not giving anything to us. Like, we want to be a blessing to you. No financial commitment. We just want to come help you." That's it. That's wonderful. And then I wrote, this is my last one. Consider this. Maybe if you can, step out of your own pulpit one Sunday and have somebody preach for you and go listen to him. Not to critique him, not to tell him what he's doing right and doing wrong, but just to sit in the congregation and be his biggest fan. Be his amen section. After the service, "Pastor, that was an awesome message. Thanks for that. That really stirred my heart. Man, I'm so glad I got to join you today." How often I only ever go visit other churches when I'm on vacation, or on some trip or something, or preaching out or something like that. How often have you ever heard of a pastor visiting another pastor's church, like on a Sunday in his own backyard? It doesn't happen that often. I think it would really encourage somebody. So those are my applicational thoughts. I'm going to kick it back to Jason, and he can follow us up with our discussion questions. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey. Let's see here. I've got the discussion questions. I'm going to throw them into the chat right now. And then we are going to go to our breakout rooms. We've got 3 breakout rooms. We'll meet back here in the moment, and we'll see you there. What's up? What's up? You guys ever wonder what room I choose when we go to these sessions? I choose the one that has the least amount of people in it. And on today's occasion, I choose the one that doesn't have a breakout leader because I had one cancel on me last minute. So here we are. I will be moderating this room today, and I could not be more happy to be with you men. Let's see, we got Walter, Corey, who just did our talk. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to have the guy that did the talk in the room with you. James is here. Is it Carell? Did I pronounce that right? Carell? Carell Davis? Is that right? Did I pronounce it right? Help me out, Carell. Oh, you don't have audio. I have audio. Can you guys unmute? Everybody unmute.
Yeah, I've got audio.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Carell, give me a thumbs up. And am I saying your name right or am I wrong? All right, let's see. Who else is in this room? We got Justin Reed is here. Adam is here. Tim Wilcox and Garrett. Is that right? Cool. All right, guys, we're going to get to these questions. Corey, thanks for that talk today. That was really good. I don't know if Corell can hear me or not. If he can't, he might, I don't know. Maybe he's delayed. All right, let me start with question one. From the roundtable, what did you agree with or disagree with and why? Easy on the disagreement. Corey's in the room, okay?
No way. Don't pull any punches.
Yeah. Let's start off a little slow. Yeah, what was your big takeaway? Just question one. We'll start there. And if you guys want to leave yourself unmuted, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I'll start out, I guess. I feel that, ministering to different pastors in the community is like vital. I know in Dundalk here, which is only like 10 minutes away from Corey, so I'm personally offended that he has not showed up on my doorstep or church service every week. So I'm personally offended. But in Dundalk here, we have actually created a pastor's prayer group where all the pastors interdenominationally get together every other Thursday and pray together. And they're my best friends in Dundalk. When we're crying, we cry together, we pray for one another, and we go to each other's churches, we share resources. And so I think in Dundalk, that's kind of something that the pastors in this town have really mastered, is helping each other down the road. And so I really appreciate what you said, Corey, because I think it's vital, it's desperately needed in churches.
Awesome. I love that idea. I love that. It sounds like a connect group, small group type deal for pastors. That's really awesome, James.
Got about
Who
12
else?
or 13 pastors. Yeah.
That's great. That's really cool. Who else?
Tim Wilcox in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Yeah, I was inspired. I'm planning on going to Kingdom Hall and talking to some guys. I'm just kidding. I'm not headed to Kingdom Hall. But anyway, I do believe that we need to be more kingdom focused and not just our own church. And I've been brought up independent Baptist and learned how to be very independent. And I think it's not healthy for us. And so I thought this was great. And I love the thoughts from the Good Samaritan. I've been in Fredericksburg almost 30 years and saw it as important to try to be an encouragement to other pastors. And think that's really important. And it's really tough just to take the time. You can be so focused on a growing ministry and everything you have, and it's hard to take the time out of your schedule, but I do think it's vital. And trying to reach outside of my independent Baptist brethren sometimes is difficult, and sometimes talking to more progressive ministries, and I don't mean by that just style, but actually, progressive can be real challenging, talking to different people and realizing there's a lot of different thoughts out there that's like, wow, they really need to grow in some scripture knowledge, or they challenge me sometimes to reach outside of, my little box.
That's good. Good. Who else? Anybody else want to weigh in on number one here?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't know what happened. It just blinked out. Now it's here again. So, but anyway, I can speak for Nick, who I think a lot of you know. He's senior pastor at our church. He's involved in a senior pastor group that meets every Thursday for prayer. And I know the churches are different denominations, different sizes. And I've really seen him grow just as a staff member as well. And I know that, I guess maybe it's quarterly, they do a round table bringing in somebody to pour into them. So that's working really well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've talked to Nick a time or two just about how he is engaged in his community. And that's really awesome. He does do a good job with that. Who else? Anyone else want to jump in on one? If not, we can move on.
I try to reach out to anyone that's around me where I'm at. There's a pastor. There's a church like 3 miles from me. He's actually a part of the interfaith community, which at first I was really kind against that idea, because it's a group. It's just for the town we live in, but it's also like interdenominational, interfaith. There's so many different leaders. And he told me, he said, there's someone there that's seeking, and they go to this group looking for the right answers. He's the only one there that actually believes the way we believe as far as salvation. So there's people that'll go there. He doesn't participate with any of the religious activities that they do, but they do a lot of like social services, social support, reaching out to the community. It's like an outreach. I've tried to. There's other pastors in my area that I've reached out to. A lot of them are a bit too busy to respond. Some of them respond, some don't. It's I don't know, but I think it's important to network.
Yeah, for sure. I think busyness can be a huge setback for a lot of people. I think it's a good reason why some people don't respond. They don't get back with you. Look at question 2. What has been an area of ministry where you saw other neighboring ministries as competitors rather than teammates? Don't all jump in at once on this one. I know how much you're itching just to jump on board with this question, but we've all been guilty of that before. What's an area? Go ahead, Walter.
There's a church right next to us that I consider a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
They're a Roman Catholic church. So I really wouldn't consider that a teammate.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. You guys have separate missions altogether. Who else? Anybody else want to weigh in? I think that proximity has a lot to do with it. I mean, they're next door to you, but obviously it would be difficult. I know of a church. I'm close to Winston-Salem. There's a church that I visited a handful of times that they'll do pastors' conferences, things that are specifically for ministry leaders, pastors, and I've gone to it. And the first time I went, I realized that they don't share a parking lot with the church next door, but there's probably 12 feet between where their parking lot ends and the other church's parking lot begins. And I can't imagine what that's like for a senior pastor on a Sunday morning to compare the cars in his lot versus the cars in the other. Both churches are relatively the same size. They have the same number of parking spaces, and they're literally next door to each other. I think proximity has a lot to do with the fact that they see themselves more as competitors than teammates. So proximity. What's another one? Any other contributors?
Of course, all the big events you have, like Harvest Fest, VBS. Someone comes and says, "Oh man, we had 100 kids at VBS," and you're like, "How many?" We had like 20. Oh no, I think that's a contributing factor.
Yeah.
To jealousy. It can be jealousy too, especially with finances. The church, you can put on an amazing program, but you don't have the finances for something like that. That can be comparison, lead to jealousy and stuff like that.
Yeah. Finances, numbers, both good.
Yep.
Any others?
And like you said, with proximity, I live in Georgia, so people can pass 10, 12 churches on the way to your church.
Yeah.
So it's just overrun. So it's easy to have that.
Yeah, we can get very territorial. I think when you have a lot of churches in an area. Any other thoughts on 2? If not, we'll move on. All right, number 3. Are there legitimate reasons to not engage other ministry leaders in your community? And the follow-up, what are the parameters of your interactions with these ministry leaders?
I could begin on that one.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Yeah, our rule, especially with other pastors in Dundalk, we're interdenominational, and our rule is you have to believe in the core doctrines of the faith: salvation by faith, grace through faith, baptism, sin, being sin. We don't allow. There's a pastor who's homosexual in town. We don't allow fellowship with that. Those type of things. That the core doctrines of the faith are our cutting points. we can disagree on secondary and the third tier doctrine. There's no problem, but the primary doctrines, the basic core elements, that's our dividing line.
I think that's good. I think everybody has a dividing line, and the more petty you want to be with that, the easier it is to break off fellowship with literally everyone. And so that's good. That's good, James, that you've got those with your group. Who else?
Jason, we are involved in working with the Billy Graham group, which is, me growing up independent Baptist, preach a lot against Billy Graham and everything. But it's been a good experience. His grandson, Will Graham's coming to Fredericksburg, and I've been working with people. And my thinking is, as far as kingdom focused, we have to have the same evangelical doctrines, but, from my perspective, a lot of them don't know how to baptize correctly. So I'm not going to go to their church. They're not going to come to mine. But we have our distinctive within our church and certain things. Fredericksburg is a pretty cool place. I work with a lot of the other Baptist churches, good connection. And we have different music styles, maybe different Bible version, different dress or whatever. And if somebody visits us and is looking for something different, I say, hey, I'll go over to that church. You'd probably like their music better. And I got a note this morning. A guy asked if I was KJV 1611. And I just sent him a note and I said, here's a church that I think would be great for you. And no reason for me to debate him or try to make him think like me or whatever. But that's just my perspective. Try to have a kingdom focus. But in our church, I wouldn't necessarily have these guys preach for us, and they probably wouldn't have me preach for them. But if we're getting people saved, they're my friends.
Yeah, that's good. That was a gracious response, Tim. Good for you. What else on this one? Anyone else want to jump in before we move on?
I would say I'm just looking for a guy that has the right doctrine, but also the right spirit, because those are the relationships that are going to encourage me, and I think it'll encourage him. Sometimes, if it's a guy that is the kind of person that's always looking for something to criticize, that relationship's not going to be fruitful for either one of us, probably.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of guys I look for to reach out to.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good. It's a good perspective. All right, let me look at number 4 here. What have you found to be the most helpful practice in engaging ministry leaders in your community? This could be something you do on a regular basis. That could be something you've done once. This could be something you aspire to do. What have you found to be the most helpful practice in engaging leaders in your community?
I'm relatively new to the ministry world. I worked in a corporate environment for a while, but just in relationships in general, one thing that I found to be true is that, so we're all made in the image of God. And so assuming value where value is probably present has been helpful for me. And not having preconceived notions about, man, this person is not going to add any value to my life. So I think it's twofold. It's one, it's, we were talking about earlier, being prepared. And so you want to add value to somebody else's life, but then also just assuming that somebody may have some value to add to your own life as well. And so I think that helps to kind of break down some of those barriers initially to say, you're made in the image of God, you're created for a purpose, and there's probably something that I could learn from you. We're going to learn from everyone. So
I could not agree more, Garrett. That's a great thought. I think you can learn something from everybody, even if it's something that you would not want to emulate, in their life. I think when I rub shoulders with pastors, that are older than me, which is a lot of times, I'm always asking questions and trying to learn, because I realize I do not have the most experience in the room, and I want to hear, what does this guy say? What is it? Hey, Tim, you said you've been in the same area for 30 plus years. You're somebody who, when I would be around you, I'd want to rub shoulders and say, hey, tell me about this community. How have you seen it change? I agree with you, Garrett. I think you can learn something from everyone. And if you come into it with that mentality and that spirit, you'll probably help them and you'll help yourself in the process. I think that's great. Very well said. What else? Yeah, Adam.
The couple things that I've tried that I feel like have worked is, just call a guy or send him an email, see if he wants to go to lunch. And then I've tried to be really intentional at that, especially at the first lunch, to not just talk about church, but just to try to get to know, the guy and his family, and not ask a ton of questions about how big the church is, or, that kind of stuff, and just truly show that you just want to be friendly.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is, like he mentioned as an idea, is just go show up at their church. Whenever there's a fifth Sunday, we do a Lord's Supper service in the afternoon, and we don't have a Sunday night service. And so my wife and I, sometimes the whole family, will just go to another church nearby. And it's just been a blessing to do that. For one thing, it's nice for me to just sit there and not be a pastor for a church service. But again, just to show them, hey, we're interested, and we have no ulterior motive. I'm not here to invite you to my meeting or anything like that. We just want to sit and be fed and encourage in that way. So those are a couple of things that I've seen be effective.
Nice. Yeah, really good. Really good. Anyone else want to jump in on 4 most helpful practice in engaging ministry leaders in your community?
I would say that I think most pastors, they are busy. They've gone through hurt in life. They have their own insecurities. And normally when I talk to a pastor, they have quite a few walls up. And I just try to share some of the junk I've gone through in life. I've been at one place for 30 years, was involved in the ministry before that as well. And in an area that churches didn't work together. Where I am now, they really have, we have good relationships. But yeah, when I start telling about problems I've had in ministry or with my kids or personally, some walls have come down, and pastors can be real. And it's not very often a pastor's real that I've seen, because for real, well, how will people respond, So that's how I've tried to deal with that. And I really liked what Corey said as far as don't just invite people to your events, go to their event. We all want them to come to ours, but very few pastors are willing to go to another event, and life's busy. But if we're not willing to do that, they're not going to come to ours as well.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah, I got something else.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
One is being patient with the pastors. Some might not have the same desire for fellowship as others. I know I have one in town that I've met with once, and something always comes up. He always schedules something with me, and then something always comes up. Well, okay. Well, when your time, we're all busy, and just be patient with some of these pastors who aren't as prone to fellowship as you are, because eventually, I think they'll come around. But especially when they have a need, even if they're not patient with you to meet now, you'll be the person that they call when they have a need or have a hurt in town. So.
Anyone else on 4? All right, let me go to 5. This is where the rubber meets the road. Corey, I hate that you put this question in here. This is not helpful to us. Number 5, will you commit to reaching out to one ministry leader in the community that you've never really connected with in a meaningful way? Ask them to get together for coffee, lunch, and then you put a timeline on it. It has to be between now and the next roundtable. That's a week. It's 167 hours from right now that
you got 2 weeks technically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
So you're good.
Thanks for the wiggle room. Bonus. Who is it? So anyone want to jump in here? Hey, I know of somebody in my community, another pastor, another ministry leader that I'm going to try and connect with. Never really connected with them before. Yeah. Adam, go ahead.
I'm going to cheat because I just went to Justin Reed's church Sunday night.
Nice.
So I'm going to count that. And he bought me dinner afterwards. So it was awesome.
Oh, what a nice guy. He was in our room for a second and then he bounced out. He must have had somewhere else to be, or maybe it didn't go well and he saw that you were in there.
He said he had a missionary
Didn't
pop
go
into
as
his
well as I
church. So
thought.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but it was a blessing, and just to fellowship with their church, and for his wife to get to know my wife afterwards, and to get to know their kids, and it was such an encouragement. I know it was to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure it was mutual. That's really cool. What else? Anyone else want to jump in on 5?
What kind of radius?
Corey wrote the question. He has to answer that one. I don't know. What did he say?
I mean, if you're willing to drive it, I mean, I guess it could be as far as you want.
Maybe virtual coffee, Walter, if there's not anyone
There you go.
close by there.
Yeah, there's one. There's a guy about a half hour away. I was going to go visit last Sunday. I didn't get to.
Anyone else? Yeah,
Oh,
correct.
yeah, there's a worship leader I can reach out to right across the state line. So for coffee, should have done it earlier, but I'll do it this time.
Yeah, that's good. Corey, I will say this: we had that meetup in North Carolina last week, and there was a couple guys there that I knew were coming that I had meant to try and connect with. And one of them, I'd never been around him. I'd never met him, but I knew of him. He knew of me, and we connected really well at that meetup just last week when we got together. And what was crazy was we tried to choose a central location in between me and Josh Cox. So we both drove about 30 to 40 minutes to be there. But this guy actually drove, I'm trying to think, I think it was over an hour and a half to be there. He brought a couple guys from his staff, and I was able to connect with him and thought that was a really positive thing. But it was good. What else? Anybody else? Somebody you're going to connect with over the next couple of weeks or so? All right. Corey, I've got a question for you, and we got 2 or 3 minutes here before we have to go back to the main room. So you're the engagement director of the Idea Network. And so over the last couple of months, what are trends, or if there are any, that you've seen with ministry leaders trying to engage with other ministry leaders? Have you noticed any trends as far as regionally where people are in certain places, where they're more prone to getting together than other regions of the country? Have you noticed any trends along those lines since you've been doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I know that you and I and Josh Cox have kind of mentioned this a little bit, and I think it is a regional thing, which it surprises me in your area that it's not more so, I guess. But I do think certain areas are more prone to like just having whatever you want to call it, just a get together, like a drop of the hat kind of thing, than others. And I think some places, for some reason, are more prone to just like, I think who was just saying it a minute ago, Brother Tim was saying, like, it's almost like a regional thing of like, no, we're just going to do things like independently, like not even necessarily Baptist, just independent. Like I know James said he knows a good group, and he's not far from me. Dundalk's not very far from me. Like I said, I hardly know anybody in the area here because I've only lived here a year and a half, and for the first year it was chaos. So I'm trying to get to know people in this area.
There is a toll, so I'll give you leeway.
Okay, all right. All right, well, maybe we can meet at the toll or something like that.
That's right. That's good.
That sounds
How
fun.
much is that toll?
But I feel like I mean, at least right around my immediate area right now, and I've only been here for a year and a half, but I feel like that's kind of the way it is. It's a lot of independent. It's not super networky. And not just Idea Network, just in general. Everybody kind of just does their own thing. So I'm not sure if that's like a Northeast thing. Like I'm from the Midwest. There's a lot of people doing stuff together. Here, it doesn't seem like there is as much, but I mean, I might have a wrong read on that just from my own experience or lack of experience, I should say. But if you just look at the network, especially, like just look at our Facebook page, there are people that are more prone to get together with others than other groups. So Anyway, I'd encourage you guys to get together with other people and to maybe even spearhead them. That's why we even did like the local meetups thing that Jason hosted one, and then Philip Jones hosted one in California, was really to prompt these kinds of things that maybe you need an excuse to do. So
Adam, were you able to go to the one in Southern California?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome.
And I was going to say California is tough because there just aren't nearly as many churches out here, and we're farther apart, especially with LA. Like I'm south of Los Angeles, so it might only be 10, 15 miles away, but if it's on the other side of Los Angeles, fighting traffic to get to something is tough. So I think that contributes to it being hard for people to get together. But yeah, we had a good time at the meetup.
That's awesome. Hey, Walter, you look like you were wanting to jump in there.
Yeah, like here I'm right here in between Jersey and New York City. And in New Jersey, I've noticed a lot of guys are like super isolation. They don't like to just network very much. Even the Southern Baptist guys, they don't even network very much in the Southern Baptist local network. In New York City, though, it's a totally opposite. It's a totally different story. You got people, they just look for reasons to try to meet up. There's also to get to New York City from here is $30, I think, $20, and tolls.
Okay, that's high. Is that your toll, James? What is that what you got going over there in Dundalk?
No, it's like $3 whole, man. So if you got an easy pass.
Oh, I do. I have one.
So there's no excuse then, Corey. You got to get to James's connection.
You got to get me. Why did you put me in this room, Jason?
I had no idea.
I'll be
it's
fair,
all random.
I did not know you were in Glen Burnie, so it's just as much my fault.
I didn't know you were in the Maryland area until I saw your name pop up on something. I don't remember what. I was like, hey,
you guys have 2 weeks to get together for coffee. You have 2 weeks. Or you put the stipulation out
I'll
there.
do it. I'll do it.
Okay.
It sounds great. Yeah, we're almost out of time here. It looks like we got about 60 seconds or so before we wrap up. Anything else? Any other questions you guys have for Corey or anything else we want to mention before we head back to the main room?
I just had one thought. A young guy started a church a couple years before COVID and tried to connect a little bit. And he's building his first building about 5 minutes from our location. And so he just broke ground not that long ago. And I said, hey, can I meet you out at the site? And was able to go out there. He showed me the plans. I just want to be excited for him because I know a building project is difficult. I prayed with him and just said, hey, if anything I can do to be a help. And I know it would be easy to kind of be territorial, but I just thought that was important to kind of befriend him and encourage him during a building project.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for weighing in. All right, we are all making our way back into the main room. I'm going to turn things over to our other two moderators. We've got Chris Rule is here. Let me add him. And then we've got Philip Jones. These were the three moderated rooms. I got to moderate today. It was awesome. Chris, I'm going to start with you. Give us a 60-second recap of what we missed by not being in your room. And then Philip, I'll hit you next.
Well, I could just read the names of the people that were in our room. That's what you truly missed, is our personalities, our perspective, our fantastic conversation. So some of those things, number one, we just talked about birthdays, anniversaries. We definitely agreed with, man, we got to do those things for other pastors, just remembering who they are and those days for them. And then just expressing love to other pastors. We're in the ministry too. And so just expressing that love. Question number two about the legitimate reasons to engage or not engage. We just have to lean in to celebrate them and their ministries. We liked what Corey said about maybe visiting other other churches in the area, and just learn to celebrate who they are. I like what somebody said in our group for number 3. Just be nice, and it's not like we're sizing them up for the kill. So just learn to be nice to other pastors, and then some ideas on how that are helpful practices in engaging other ministry leaders. Just praying together. Adam talked about a group that met together. They would read a book as a group separately, and then come together and discuss it over a period of time. And so just real good encouragement there. And then number 5, would we commit to reaching out to ministry leaders? I think most of us would definitely be absolutely yes. Adam Bray was the only one who said never. And so, yeah, that's it.
That's unfortunate. Thank you, Chris, for sharing that with us. Phil?
So I had Justin and Andrew in my breakout room, and it was a really good conversation. Probably the biggest thing that we talked about was those dividers and bridges. Some of the things that keep us from connecting, and realizing that many times it's only about 5% of the things of doctrine or whatever that does divide us. And if those 5% are things like the gospel, that's something that might need to stay in place. But if it's something like methods, then we can bypass some of those to encourage someone in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so like I shared with the guys, I read a Barna study that said 37% of lead pastors in America have a biblical worldview, only 37%. And that's things like, did Jesus sin? Is there a hell? Is the devil real? Is the Bible trustworthy? Things like that, only 37%. And it even gets worse when you go down to children's pastors at 13%. And when you're faced with numbers like that, it's easy to see how we could have some dividers in place, but we also need to look for ways to overcome those and reach out to help them to maybe even develop a biblical worldview, to see what the Bible actually teaches about those things, so we can be more effective in reaching the community with the gospel. So anyway,
awesome.
That's kind of our room.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys sharing that. Our room was a lot of the same. It was great because I don't know if Corey's still on here, but Corey, yeah, there he is. Corey and James are only like 10 minutes from each other, and they've not connected. And so it was great to be able to tell Corey that we're going to engage in connecting with leaders in our backyard, and he gets to do that as well. But it's so true, because all of us are in that boat. There's all the time people that I didn't realize are in our community, or that are hooking up and getting together. And so Corey, I really appreciate your thoughts today. We had some good feedback from guys in our group that just shared things that they're doing. Adam shared about the meetup that he was in Southern California, and just things like that. And for you guys who are interested, Corey is our engagement director. He runs the meetups. If you want to do a meetup in your area, of multiple pastors or multiple churches that are remotely connected with the Idea Network in your community, regionally, do a meetup. It does not take a lot of effort. Talk to me. I'll help you out. I'll give you some of my perspective. Philip Jones just did one in Southern California, but Corey is the point person on that. If you're interested in getting together and doing something on that level, he can help you out. A couple quick announcements I've got for you guys, then I'll let you go. We are going to do a friend day where we're encouraging all of you to bring someone to the virtual roundtable with you. It's going to be in the month of July. I think the date is July 19th. We're going to have a speaker that day that's going to do a great job, but I wanted you to get that date on your calendar. Try and be with us July 19th. We're going to do a friend day to incorporate people that are not official members into the virtual roundtable for 1 week only, just to get a little sampling of what we do here. Special thanks to Corey for leading our talk today. The LGBTQ+ webinar will be next week in lieu of this meeting. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Reach out to Kylie if you still need help with registering. But that's all we've got. Thank you guys for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today. Have a great week. Catch you next time.